Well, that was adventurous. Thank you everybody for your patience and thank you for joining us here for tonight's episode of Storytime with Julian. This is episode number 84, and we're calling this episode Back in That Kabu. Tonight, we're going to be revisiting the magical folklore of Nnedi Okorafor's Kabu Kabu. Now, in our first read, we were both bemused and delighted, and so tonight's stories are going to be an interesting sort of follow-up. Tonight, we're going to be reading The Long Juju Man. Has nothing to do with me, no relation, and we're going to be reading a second story called The Carpet. Now, there have been a whole lot of technical glitches and difficulties going on tonight that I honestly can't account for. One of them is this goofy looking frozen face of mine that you're probably looking at now after a few moments of just a black screen. Um, we're going to try and push, because now apparently I am Medea. We're going to try and push through regardless of the awkwardness of the situation, and just try and make everything work out. Thank you so much for coming. It's good to see all of you here. I see that we've got Angel Monique and Angela Rains. I see Kamisha Umstead and Erica Yolita. I see Mika Poppins and Marie Toussaint. I see Kelly Ruff is in the building again. Good to see you, Kelly. And Daniel Price is here. What's happening? Daniel and I uh, acted together in a production around about this time last year called Sweet Evening Breeze. I love to see my theater folks come through. So tonight's read, what are we reading tonight? I just told you, but let me show you. Let me show you better than I can tell you. Tonight's read is Kabu Kabu by Nnedi Okorafor. And yeah, I struggle with the pronunciation of her name, but she has some beautiful, beautiful pieces in this book. And there's a certain poetry, a certain terror. There's some enchantment. There's a lot going on in these stories. Now, this first story, usually what I do is a cold read, and you guys typically see the disclaimer, because I always like to make sure that we're clear. These works are read as they are written. And sometimes we're going to stumble on some things that are going to be triggering. Sometimes we're going to stumble on some words that are going to be offensive. Sometimes we're going to run into scenarios that are uncomfortable to talk about, but they are read as written because I believe in being true to the piece. More often than not, I have not read these before reading them. On some occasion, and particularly when we premiere new work from artists from within our own circle, those I will have read before. This is one of the rare stories, this Long Juju Man. This is one of the rare stories that I read in advance just because I was curious about it. So we're going to start with that one. And then the second story, Carpet, is a considerable bit longer. But I'm looking forward to sharing both of these with you. Normally, I would have a little title card to show the name of the story here. But with all the glitches and stuff, I'm not even going to pause to bring that in. We're just going to start right here where we are. In my village, everyone knows that there are ghosts. We treat them like anyone or anything else, nothing new. But that day I walked down the path to my auntie's house to deliver a basket full of eggs was different. I was only 9 years old. My auntie lived a few minutes away. If I took the shortcut through the forest, I always chose to go this way because I liked the feeling of being alone with all the tall trees, chirping and cackling birds and buzzing insects. Oftentimes, if I walked quietly, I'd glimpse a curious monkey high in the trees. This particular day was warm and there was a breeze in the treetops that went shh as it passed through the leaves. I was in a wonderful mood. I didn't have a care in the world. I should have known something was off when I heard the owl hoot 3 times and I saw a blue butterfly flutter by. Owls only hoot at night, and if a blue butterfly crosses your path, it means something's about to happen. At least that's what my mother always says. I'm a tiny woman. Back then, I was an even tinier girl. However, my legs could move me fast as a terrified gazelle, and where I was short, I was tall in words. But still, when I came across the wild mango tree, heavy with rotting mangoes, I was shocked into silence. Right there, under the tree, picking the most rotten mangoes, was a ghost. And not just any ghost either. It was the infamous Long Juju Man himself. How frightening he was, with long black beard, tall lanky body, and skin so brown it was the color of midnight. I stood there in shock. He hadn't seen me yet. When the wind blew, he would lose his shape, becoming solid again when it stopped. Everything about him was blue like the ocean on a clear day. He wore a blue kaftan that reached his knobby ankles, and he was encircled by a soft blue aura. Wherever he stepped, he left a blue footprint that quickly melted away. He was stooping down, gathering the most rotted mangoes. Everyone in my village knows that ghosts like to eat rotten fruit, for rotten fruits are beautifully sweet to the deceased. He smelled strongly of red pepper. Even from where I stood, frozen with fear, I could smell him. My grandfather always said that Long Juju Man was a spicy man when he was alive. On moonlit nights, grandfather used to gather all the children. We would sit outside on the ground at his feet, my grandfather in his favorite chair. He would tell us stories that took us into the past and sometimes into the future. We loved to hear the story of Long Juju Man. 50 years ago, my grandfather said, Long Juju Man was the most talented sorcerer in the village. He could turn lead to gold, goat feces to blue butterflies. He loved blue butterflies. He could cure even the nastiest diseases, and he would do it all free of charge. But he also had a weakness for pranks. He'd make it rain on wedding days, turn palm wine sour. Once he even used his juju to cast a spell on a chicken he was selling that filled it with air, making it appear plump. When he saw you, depending on how you behaved, he would decide to teach you something or play a prank on you. His snickering was most annoying. When you heard it, you knew he decided you weren't worthy of being taught and that something embarrassing would soon happen to you. No one knows why he was named after the famous Okorchu shrine, Long Juju. Maybe because he was powerful as he was deceitful. Some like to say it was because his juju went a long way. But one day, he set up a trap for Joseph Okeke, a fat, greedy lawyer known for swindling his clients. Long Juju Man dug a deep pit in front of Joseph's doorstep during the night. He lined the bottom of the pit with feathers he had cast a spell on to make them stick to whoever they touched. Then he cast a spell on the pit to make it invisible. Nevertheless, when he was done, Long Juju Man laughed so hard at the thought of the lawyer falling in that he slipped and fell into the pit himself. The pit was deep and the layers of feathers too thin. The fall killed him. But as a spirit, Long Juju Man still had things to do, my grandfather said. Even after death, Long Juju Man continues playing his terrible jokes. So you all watch out for him. Watch your step at the market. He likes to pretend he is a beggar sitting on the ground. But when you pass him by, he'll stick his foot out and cause you to fall in front of everyone. If you are wearing your best Sunday church clothes, do not hold babies. Sometimes he will sneak up next to you and tickle the baby until it vomits with glee. And when you are bringing home a basket of eggs, make sure he doesn't see, because he will break every single one. I remembered this last warning as I looked at the eggs my mother had given me to take to my aunt. My heart was beating fast because I couldn't believe I was actually seeing him, Long Juju Man, the ghostly genius joker. As my mother sent me out, she said, "Make sure you don't break even one of those eggs." I had grumbled about how she never trusted me to do the simplest thing. I was a confident 9-year-old. I believed in myself. But now I wasn't so sure, and I was terrified. As I stood there, his strong, peppery scent wafted into my nose, and I sneezed loudly. He turned around, and his first reaction was to grin widely, as if he had 1,000 teeth and he wanted to show every single one of them. I looked side to side. Should I run? I thought. A ghost could move faster than I could, especially on my short legs. No, I didn't run. "Well, hello there," he said, snickering. His laugh went hee hee hee, and if I weren't so afraid, I would have giggled myself. "What you got there?" "Nothing important." "Don't lie to me, tiny girl," he said, scowling. "You're barely the size of a mushroom." "It doesn't matter. I'm not stupid." "So you know who I am?" he asked. "You're Long Juju Man," I said, holding my head up to show that I was not afraid. "And I am not stupid," I said again. "I'm very, very smart." "No, you're very arrogant," he said, biting into a rotten mango. He closed his eyes and savored the wonderful sweetness. When he opened them, they glowed bright blue. "Why do you travel alone?" "Because I am confident in my—" "Arrogance is not like confidence," he snapped, his nostrils flaring. I stepped back. afraid that he would pounce on me. Instead, he snickered. Do you not fear me? Do you not know what I am capable of? Yes, I do, I said. But I'm not. Yes, you are, he said, grinning. Look at you, with your puff hair and your short legs. I could have been a jackal and gnawed at your ankles. He melted into a blue haze and became a fox-like jackal with shaggy brown fur and pointy ears. He snarled at me and I shivered, but held strong. I shook my head. No, there are no jackals in these forests. I could have been a bad man, come to steal you away, he said, his jackal body loudly exploding into sparkles and blue butterflies and coming back together as a tall, mean-looking man with a hunched shoulder and dome-like protruding forehead and shady, shifty eyes. I shook my head again. It's broad daylight, and that is my uncle's house right over there. He likes to garden, and he would hear me shout. Long Juju Man held up a knobby finger and melted from the bad man into a thick fog, so thick I couldn't see anything but blue smoke. I could be confusion, he said in a voice that sounded as if it were coming from everywhere. I could make you lose your way. For a third time, I shook my head, this time smiling. I have a sense of direction like a bird, I said. I never lose my way. Then I pointed north. That way is north, toward my home. Long Juju Man sucked his foggy self in and popped back into his original form. He stroked his beard, squinting at me, a smirk on his face. Then he nodded. You are a smart girl. That is good. I will be nice and not break your eggs. But I must give you a lesson before I let you go. Are you listening? I nodded, excited. I would certainly have a story to tell my friends when I got home. I would brag about how I outsmarted the craftiest ghost in all of history. You sure you're listening? He said, his eyes narrowing. Yes, I'm listening, I said. Good. Here is the lesson. What an old woman sees while lying down, a girl can never see, even when she climbs up in a tree, he said. It's only because I like you that I don't smash every last egg you carry. You should always be humble in your confidence and intelligence. Then there was a popping sound, and he disappeared in a shower of blue flowers that melted before they hit the ground. I quickly ran to my auntie's house, clutching the basket of eggs. When I got there, I was sweating from running and the strain of holding in a great story. I knocked on the door, still out of breath. I heard the footsteps as my auntie approached the door, but I heard something else too. It was a crunching, crackling sound. I gasped when I looked down at the eggs, just as auntie opened the door. Ngoli, my child, auntie said, smiling and smooching me on the cheek. Then she looked at the eggs in the basket and gasped. All of the eggs had hatched into fuzzy yellow chicks, cheeping and looking about in confusion. Wouldn't you be confused if you hadn't expected to hatch? From somewhere, I heard Long Juju Man snickers. And thus endeth the story. That was Long Juju Man from Nnedi Okoafor's Kabu Kabu stories. That is the first of the two stories that we're going to read tonight. And I'm curious, what did you all think of it? What were your takeaways from it? I will go ahead and say right off, I liked it a lot. It's not a terribly complicated story, but it's not without its richness. I think one of the things that I dig about it is it kind of reminds me, in a strange way, it reminds me a lot of Little Red Riding Hood. I guess it's a fairly simple archetype in as much as there's a little girl traveling with a basket of something on the way to an elder relative's house. But it has a much more beautiful rhythm to it, and it speaks to me in a really nice way. Um, it speaks to me in a nice way. I sound like Donald Trump, right? I don't know. They like me. He says good things about me. Akanke says it was truly short and sweet. Erica Yolita tells us that she thought it was precious. Now I'm looking at all of y'all, all of y'all, all of y'all, all of y'all are over here on Facebook. None of y'all, none of y'all, none of y'all, none of y'all are watching on YouTube. And I really, really want to shift the energy over to YouTube. So if you have YouTube and you've subscribed to us on YouTube, go ahead and click that YouTube. And make sure that you leave a comment over there, okay? Now, since you are on Facebook, I'm going to ask a favor. This is a little bit of housekeeping, but this is something that I need from you all, especially if you are a regular. That means you know our Facebook page. It means you've been to our Facebook page. I need you to go there tonight. It doesn't have to be right now. No, it could be because you could be watching this in one of the little micro windows. But go there tonight and leave a review. There's a section on Facebook where you can hit right up around the top. You can hit for review. And I'm gonna tell you what I want. I want 5 stars. I want you to rate this program, this effort, this story time with Julian thing 5 stars. I want you to write a nice review that says what you get out of it. Help me to explain to other people why they need to do this thing here. Okay. That's what I want. So if you're going to be on Facebook and if you're going to watch this on Facebook, I would really, really appreciate it that you do that. Now, for those of you who are on YouTube, thank you for being there. Please like and subscribe and make sure that you hit that bell, and keep the comments and the conversations going over there. All right. Because growth on YouTube is going to mean a lot for this show in the next coming months. And there's more going on than I can say about it, but it's our YouTube growth that we really, really want to push. Kelly Ruff has an interesting comment here. She says, I loved it. There's so much potential in the adventures of unattended children. Powerful observation. Kind of scary way to put it, but powerful observation. And I'm with you. I'm with you. Excuse me. I said that the story gave me Little Red Riding Hood vibes. Erica Yolita said that she got Rumpelstiltskin vibes out of it, and it looks like Mika got Alice and the Looking Glass with the Cheshire Cat. You know what? I could see that, but you know what else? I also can see from there the caterpillar, because there was a lot of smoke and blue and butterflies and offering wisdom, but the wisdom was actually kind of, you still gonna get this work. The caterpillar did a lot of that, so I can see that too. I can see that. Melanie Monroe wants to remind everybody to please make sure to like this live video, everyone. Yes, please do. It matters. It really does it makes a difference. And she's also threatening y'all about that review, 5 stars or else. Listen, I wouldn't mess with her. It's them ones that talk short but actually be tall that you got to worry about. You know what I mean? She talks short, but she act tall. So just, let's not tempt her. Let your children range more, says Daniel. He says, the way these helicopter parents are these days, we won't have any good stories in 50 years. True that. True that. Yeah, y'all, you're right about that. That's a really good point. I think back to the most fascinating, most interesting stories of my childhood. And yeah, they were made possible by the inattentiveness of my mother. No, I'm just kidding. Mom was never inattentive, but she always told me, even up through my teen years, she said, I trust your judgment. So, I didn't have a curfew. She trusted my judgment. She knew that I knew what I had to do the next day. Um, she didn't have me like calling home every hour and needing to know who I was with and for what purpose. She just told me, I trust your judgment. And yeah, I mean, I got into some things, but they were never things that I ever needed her help getting out of. One of the things that my mom always tells me is that the greatest gift that I ever gave her was that she never had to go to the police station for me. She never had the police knocking on her door about me. And it reaffirmed for her the the choice that she gave to trust me. Now, on the other side of that, Joker says the way that people are snatching up children and selling them into trafficking, no to the range more. Nope. There's that too. I mean, we cannot be unrealistic about the dangers of the world. I think it's difficult to prepare children for the dangers of the world when they don't ever. It's like having a taser or a stun gun. A good number of the stun guns that are out there don't actually work. The problem is, in order to test the efficacy, most people don't test the efficacy of them. And some of the stun guns that are out there are pretty much one shots. They're one hitter quitters. I think a lot of times when it comes to preparing young people, they don't have sort of soft. They don't have the soft. I don't want to say opportunities, but the opportunities to because I can't think of a better word, to tap into the skill sets that they're going to need in the event of a real emergency. And we can't give them those if we don't give them some kind of opportunities and space to experience the world and use their problem solving and use the skills that we've taught them and given them. So I get it from both sides. I'm certainly not going to argue with any mother or father here who says absolutely not on free range children. You do what you got to do to keep your kids safe. You know your circumstance better than anybody. I say, for me, there's got to be a little bit of room. There's got to be a little bit of range on both sides, because I'm never going to be able to protect anybody completely. But in the event that they fall outside of the sphere of my care, I want them to have had enough experience under their belt that they know what to do and they know how to get away and do what needs to be done. Kelly Ruff is referring to what I was trying to say. Soft exposure allows children to grow and seek experience in a safe manner. That's what I'm kind of getting at. But this is not my field of expertise, so we are going to move off of that. Y'all feel free to continue that conversation in the comments. I think it's an interesting topic of conversation. But what we're going to do on this side of the camera is move into the second story of the night, and this should be the final story. Then again, I'm looking at the timing. We might end up with a little bit of extra time. If we do have a little bit of extra time, I'm going to pull a book off the shelf and read a couple of quick lighthearted Johns, okay? But this second story tonight is The Carpet. My sister and I didn't go to the market with the intention of buying a carpet for the new house. All we really wanted were some souvenirs to bring back to Chicago. We did buy a few ebony masks and some bead necklaces, a bronze statuette of the mermaid goddess Mami Wata, stuff like that. But those were insignificant in the grand scheme of things. How differently things would have gone at the new house had we not bought that thing. We were in Nigeria to visit our relatives. Our dad was sick, so our mom stayed behind to care for him. I was 15 and Zuma was 16. It was our first time visiting Nigeria without our parents, so though we'd been there many times, it felt new, different, darker. No, those are the wrong words. More mysterious. We spent the first few days of our trip with relatives in Abuja, which is a city in central, drier, Muslim-dominated part of the country. On the third day after we've recovered from our jet lag, we went with our cousin Shinyer to the market. By the time we got back to the house, someone had picked my pocket for the few naira I carried. A group of Muslim men had shouted obscenities at my sister for wearing shorts, and 2 men threatened to smash my video camera because I had the nerve to record people at the market. This was a normal day. On the 5th day, we were getting ready to travel to my father's village. It would be an 8-hour drive south. My parents had a house built in my father's village, and my sister and I were to spend 3 days there before moving on to my mother's village. We went with our cousin Chinyer to the market one last time in search of a few more souvenirs. Just ignore this man, Chinyer said as we walked through the market and approached a really extravagant-looking booth. The man sitting at it was short and old, his pot-belly pushing his long white kaftan forward. Why? I asked. My hands were shoved in my pockets to protect my money. The junk man lost his mind a long time ago, she said. Everyone knows it. If he's crazy, then why is his booth packed with people checking out his stuff? I wondered. But I kept my mouth shut. I knew it would annoy Chinyer. My sister Zuma was a few steps ahead. She hadn't heard Chinyer. Within moments, she spotted something interesting, and she, too, was drawn to the junk man's stuff. Chinyer groaned and rolled her eyes. One man's junk is another man's treasure, the junk man announced, looking Chinyer right in the eye as if challenging her. He turned to my sister Zuma. Have a look-see, but none of it's free. Look at all his things, I whispered to Zuma. I know, man, Zuma said, grinning. Just junk, Chinyer snapped, thoroughly annoyed. The junk man's booth was the same size as everyone else's, about 20 feet across, separated from the utensil shop to his right and the basket shop to his left by wooden dividers. But all that was exposed of his 20 feet was a narrow path that led in a semicircle through his junk. Everything was arranged. Some items were on tables, most on the ground, or hanging from nails on the wooden dividers. Knives, ebony statues, bronze statues, rings, necklaces, and anklets of various metals, piles of colorful stones and crystals, ancient-looking coins, brown, white, and black cowrie shells of all sizes, some the size of my pinky fingernail, others larger than my head. Scary and smiling ceremonial masks, an 8-foot tall ebony statue of a large breasted, stern looking goddess, a jar of gold powdered, a pile of bejeweled and rusted daggers, baskets and bags of colored feathers. What you look for, ladies? Junkman asked us in his gruff voice after helping a customer. The stool he sat on creaked as he shifted. He motioned to all his wares like a proud dragon. Junk or jewels, I sell to you at a good price. Do you mind if I look at? Zuma pointed to the rolled up carpet on one of his tables. It had golden tassels at its sides. That must have been what caught her eye. Zuma always loved anything that looked like something Scheherazade would own. Go ahead, don't be shy, Junkman said. That's all this is here for. But don't touch the things you don't think you should. And especially don't touch the parrot feathers over there. He pointed to a bowl full of gorgeous green fluffy feathers. The things were practically begging to be touched. I frowned. For some reason, people don't know better, Junkman said with a smirk. Then they go home and wonder why all they want to do is chatter about nonsense. Behind us, Chinyer sucked her teeth loudly and muttered, See, told you. Zuma and I looked at each other, uncomfortable. The man was either crazy or, seeing that we were American-born, he was trying to lay the mystery on thick. He thought we were like those stupid tourists who bought stuff because they thought it was magical, like those people I saw buying fake voodoo dolls in New Orleans. Little did he know we'd been coming to Nigeria since we were 5 and 6 years old. The country was more like a second home than the dark continent to us. Okay, Zuma said. I'm gonna just look over here. As she moved through all his junk, she kept her hands close to her sides. The junk man chuckled and turned back to me. American? I nodded. Sisters? Yeah, Zuma said as she looked at an ebony mask. Who's older, you? He asked, pointing at me. No, I said. She's a year older. Nah, that ain't older. You're practically twins. And then he said, and you're the older one. Your sister hasn't been around as many times. Sure, I said, trying not to look him in his wrinkly, nearly black face. Parents born here? He asked. Yeah, we both said. Then you from here? I laughed hard. If you say so. I heard Chinyer loudly suck her teeth with irritation. You interested in that carpet? He asked my sister. Sort of, Zuma said, putting down a large cowrie shell and returning to the carpet. He nodded. Go ahead and unroll it. He snickered again. It won't hurt you. Zuma dragged the rolled carpet to Chinyer and me. This will be a good finishing touch to the house, she said. A good housewarming gift. I don't know, I said. From what we'd been told, the house was already fully furnished. I wasn't sure if there would be room for it. It'll make the perfect gift. It'll make the perfect gift, yeah, the junk man said. Then he laughed again. The three of us ignored him and unrolled the carpet. People passing behind us kept getting annoyed, sucking their teeth and grumbling with impatience because the carpet took up part of the market path. Oh, I said, blinking with surprise. It's really pretty. Yeah, Chinyer said quietly, all grins. The carpet was a bright periwinkle color stitched with intricate, symmetrical, geometrical, winding designs of thick black threads. I could stare at it for hours. It was a nice piece of artwork, and the gold tassels were beautiful too. Zuma quickly rolled it back up and said, "I want to buy this, sir, for 2,000 naira." That was about $20. The junk man paused, looking intently at Zuma. Then he smiled. "Okay, let me wrap it up for you. Come on, bring it here." Zuma grinned, surprised, but I felt a little annoyed. If a seller agreed quickly, then you'd propose too high a price. But I know I would have also made the same mistake with such a beautiful carpet. Even Chinier was surprised. "It's worth over 5,000 naira, I think, even after bargaining down," Chinier quietly told me. "He really is crazy." Uncle Ralph drove us in his blue Mercedes. The 8-hour drive was long, grueling, and hot. We spent the last 2 hours on the red dirt roads pockmarked with deep holes from the rainy season. Dusty and tired, we arrived in my father's village, our relatives running out and hugging, kissing, and inspecting us. The house was enormous and lovely, a white adobe mansion in rural Nigeria. However, when we went inside, we learned that the house was also completely and utterly unfurnished, empty as hell. Apparently, over the last year since buying the furniture and placing it in the house, relatives had gone in and taken everything, piece by piece. Nice. Beds, couches, dressers, tables, chairs, rugs, a refrigerator, all gone. The house also had no electricity or running water. To make matters worse, it was ridiculously dusty from being locked for months. It seemed massive house spiders dwelled in every corner, proud and fat as Shelob from Lord of the Rings. Then there were pink wall geckos that scurried across the ceilings. These were okay, because they were cute, and they ate the mosquitoes and small spiders. I doubted that they could eat all the Shelobs. I don't know Lord of the Rings. Is that right? Shelob? Shalab? I also saw a pile of larger droppings upstairs in one of the rooms. Not a good sign. After getting a tour of the house, we both stood there in what was called the Yoruba Room. Our Aunt Mary and Uncle Daniel stood behind us quiet. Everyone else who had run out to greet us when we arrived had mysteriously disappeared as we walked into the house. The Yoruba Room was the largest in the house, with high ceilings and a lovely, though dusty, tiled mosaic of frolicking fish on the floor. "But I thought, didn't you say that everything was here?" was all I could ask. "Auntie, uncle," Zuma said angry. "What happened?" Uncle Daniel sighed and shook his head. "No one could stop them," he said. "No shame." Zuma could barely contain herself. "Why didn't you tell?" "We thought your parents would come with you," their aunt said. "We didn't think they'd come if they knew." When people travel to Nigeria, they don't usually disclose who is traveling or when. You give as little detail as possible or risk armed robbers waiting for your arrival or unscrupulous relatives from heaven and earth coming by asking for this and that. Best to catch people off guard. People knew my father was sick, but they did not know the extent, that he would be having heart surgery soon. I pushed thoughts of my father's illness out of my mind. "Well," Zuma said. She turned and looked out the window at the sky. Then she said, "We're going to stay here tonight." I gasped and said, "Zuma, I don't think—" She gave me one of her icy big sister looks. I immediately shut up. "This is our parents' house and we are their daughters, and we're in Dad's village. We stay here," she said, her voice shaky with emotion and her fist clenched. I understood. Our relatives knew our father was sick, yet they took his furniture. This was his house and they robbed it. His home in his homeland. We would honor our father before all of them by staying in the house he and my mother built. "You don't have to," my aunt said, looking worried. She motioned to the house next door. "Please, you will stay with us." "No," Zuma firmly said. "We stay here." And that is how we found ourselves in a dusty, creepy, empty, but lovely house in the middle of a semi-rural southeastern Nigeria with no running water or electricity, the only furniture being a bed my aunt had carried in and the carpet Zuma bought. We were to stay there for 3 days. The village was made up of the gigantic and not so gigantic houses of our relatives, but it was also surrounded by lush forests that used to be farmed for yams and other crops back in the day. This meant there were probably all sorts of creatures living in that house. In the evening, after pleading with us one more time, my aunt had a group of girls bring us a tray of red stew, rice, fried plantain, and 2 bottles of orange Fanta for dinner. We were so hungry and exhausted that it was the most delicious food we'd ever tasted. The girls also bought a barrel of well water for bathing. Even after washing in the dirty bathtub with cups of freezing water, it was still sweltering hot in the room we'd locked ourselves in. Jeez, I said, scratching my itchy, sweaty scalp. I plan to dunk my head in a bucket of water to wash my braids tomorrow. How are we going to sleep in this heat? Zuma shrugged, sitting on the bed, looking miserably at the lit candles. I almost want to dump water on myself, soak my clothes and the bed, I whined. I held my little battery-powered hand fan to my face. I sat beside her. We crossed our legs on the bed, afraid to touch the floor with our bare feet. And we're probably going to be bitten up by mosquitoes with that open window. Will you just shut up? Zuma snapped. If you want to run to Uncle and Auntie's house, go. I'm staying here. What are we supposed to tell Mom and Dad when we get back? You think this is going to make Dad feel better? That a bunch of his relatives are greedy jerks even when he's sick? Who cares about mosquitoes, man? This is... Then we heard it, and we both shut up. Softly, scrape, scrape, then clunk, like something falling. Then a more continuous scrape. It was coming from downstairs. What's that? I whispered. Shh, she hissed. Scrape, scrape. Quiet. Minutes passed. Then more scrape, scrape. It seemed to be moving away from us, toward the front of the house downstairs. We stayed frozen like that all night, listening. Come morning, we were still in the same position. In the village, there were night sounds that were normal, like the hoot of an owl, the clicks and chirps of insects, the screech of some animal we couldn't name. But what we'd heard was in the house, and it only stopped at about the same time that the sun rose. Someone knocking on the door forced us to leave our room. Hey, I said, smiling tiredly as we slowly walked down the stairs. I pointed at one of the ceiling corners. Looks like those nasty spiders are taking off because of us. The webs aren't just empty, but it looks like spiders actually cut them down. Cool, Zuma said. I guess they aren't so stupid. I was going to ask Tochi to come and crush them all today. Good morning, our aunt said when we opened the door. She carried a tray of breakfast, bottles of water, thick pieces of buttered bread, scrambled eggs, and a tin of sardines. She looked extremely relieved to see that we were okay. Good morning, we both said. How was your night? Not so great, but we made it, I said. It was fine, Zuma said, taking the tray. Thanks for breakfast, it looks great. We quickly ran back upstairs, anxious to eat. Zuma would be the only one eating the sardines, though. Those are nasty. As we walked past the Yoruba Room, I glanced in. Then I stopped. What the heck? I shouted. I knew something was missing downstairs. What? Zuma asked anxiously. She obviously wanted to eat before doing anything else. I ran into the room without answering. But how? I said. How did it get here? No way, Zuma said, running up next to me when she saw the carpet. Did we lock all the doors? We spent the next several minutes relocking every door in the house and then locking all the rooms that had windows. Someone snuck in here last night and is trying to mess with our heads by moving our carpet around, Zuma angrily said as she locked the door. Not gonna happen again. That night, night number 2, we slept a little better. We were exhausted and went to bed at 7 p.m. Plus, knowing that the noises were probably made by human beings related to us and that all the doors were locked set our minds at ease. at least until about 4 a.m. Then we heard that scraping sound again. I was terrified, thinking maybe this time the noise was armed robbers, zombies. My sister, she took it all a different way. Damn it, Zuma hissed angrily. They're not going to drive us out. This is so mean. She got off the bed, this time not caring that her feet would bear. What are you doing? I whispered loudly. Gonna see who the hell that is. Next thing I knew, she was opening the door and going into the hallway with the flashlight. Wait, I whispered, creeping up behind her. Quickly, we moved down the stairs toward the scraping sound, my sister peeking around the corner, staying on the last stair. She flashed her flashlight. She gasped. Shit! What is it? What do you... She grabbed my hand and we ran up the stairs. What? What? I shouted. What? She pushed me into the room, slammed the door, and locked it. Then she shut the window. Okay, Zuma said, calming down, sinking to the floor. Okay. Oh my God. I wish we'd have... No, not really. Just, man. All right? What? I sobbed, sitting next to her with my heart pounding. She didn't answer. For minutes, we both just sat there, quiet and listening and sweating. The scraping had stopped. What was it? I finally asked again. My sister turned to look at me with red-rimmed eyes. A snake. A big, black snake. We spent most of the next day outside with our cousins. We didn't tell anyone about the snake. After sitting there feeling tired and scared and confused, we had both silently thought about Dad and decided to spend the last night in the house. One more night. And then the wildlife in the house could do whatever it wanted until people were hired to clean the place up. Zuma said that the snake was over 4 feet in length and thick in body, that it was dusty black and had yellow eyes. We assumed it was poisonous and that it had probably been prowling the house at night, searching for rats or mice or whatever else lived in the house. Our cousins took us for a walk down to a nearby lagoon, and for hours after that we sat and played cards and forgot about our troubles. But eventually, we had to return to the house, and that night was the most disturbing of them all. We locked the door as always, and then we listened for the snake to start its foraging. Around 3 a.m., it started. Let's go see, I said. It was our last night in the house, and of course I was scared, but something in me wanted to see that snake, if only to be able to talk about it when we got back to Chicago. At first, Zuma looked at me like I was crazy. It was a similar look to the one I had given the crazy junk man back in that Abuja market. Then she smiled. All right, let's go. We crept out the room with our flashlight and tiptoed to the staircase, but we didn't go down. We didn't get to see the snake either. Why? Because the carpet was on the stairs. No, it wasn't just on the stairs. It was creeping up the stairs. It moved like some giant stingray. We stumbled back as it glided by, hovering about an inch or two off the floor as it swam through the air. Zuma followed it with a flashlight. Once it disappeared around the corner with a flick of a golden tassel, and we both made a run for it to our room and shut the door. Then we just sat on the bed, speechless. I thought about the junk man. He would have laughed hard at the two of us trembling in our room like that. Shocked and shivering and mentally shifted. Shit. Did you see? Shh, my sister said as we sat there. It was a flying carpet. Shh, my sister snapped. Don't talk or something. What if it hears us? Well, we've been here how many days? I think it's probably safe to say. Mukoso, shut up, she said. And it wasn't a flying carpet. It kind of just crept over the floor and stuff. Whatever, man. A carpet isn't supposed to move. No, really? What we both agreed on was that neither one of us was leaving the room again that night. Not with snakes and carpets and shit creeping and fluttering around the house. Danger abounded. So we stayed there and went to sleep. For the first time, we slept through what remained of the night. Be it from shock, mental fatigue, or just common sense, it didn't matter. We woke up hours after sunrise, around 8 in the morning. We dressed and washed in silence. And when our aunt came with breakfast, we didn't say a word. Instead, we went and sat on the floor in the Yoruba Room and ate. We sat there with empty plates. my sister nibbling on a sardine. I said, let's go find it. Why? Why not? I said. We're leaving today, plus it doesn't move during the day, at least thus far. I don't think, at least. I shook my head. Come on, let's go see it. I I don't know, she said. Let's just get out of here and act like, but it did, I said with wide open eyes. We saw it, man. We found it in the kitchen. Hello, I said loudly. Zuma frowned. I shrugged, just making sure. Even as we looked at it, neither one of us was dumb enough to start doubting what we'd seen last night. Sure, it was dark, yes, we were tired, and we were scared, but we'd seen what we saw. This periwinkle carpet with black thread designs and golden tassels was alive, and maybe now it was asleep, who knew? We stepped into the room, staying close together. Then slowly we walked up to it. Still, it didn't move. It was spread out flat, taking up about a third of the kitchen's floor. There were a few lumps in it. I squatted down and touched one of the rug's golden tassels. Then quickly, before I changed my mind, I lifted and threw the rug back over itself. We both jumped back. What we saw underneath still haunts me to this day. There was a big pile of those huge spiders, black, crushed, and dead. There were also several large dead rats, and the brown-black body of a smashed scorpion, too. To top it off, there was the black snake. I got to see it for myself after all. Coiled up, scaly black-skinned, and dead as all the other creatures under the carpet. As we stood there, the carpet rippled and began to turn itself over and flatten itself out. Then it floated away from us a bit. Later, I would think it did this almost shyly. We didn't wait to see anymore. That was enough. We ran upstairs, packed our things, and dragged them down the stairs, trying not to look toward the kitchen. We spent the remaining hours in our aunt and uncle's house. I could almost hear the junk man laughing his giggly laugh. As the airplane took off, flying us back to the United States, I couldn't help but think about the next time we'd visit. I had a feeling the flying carpet that lived in our house was one piece of furniture our relatives would not steal. You think it'll be there when we go back? I asked Zuma. Zuma looked at me. Then we both started laughing. We laughed and laughed until we looked out the window. Then I nearly screamed, and Zuma just stared. Do I need to say what we saw? And thus endeth the story. So that story was called The Carpet. And yeah, that's it. Yo, I honestly don't even know what to do with that, yo. They got an enchanted flying carpet that killed a bunch of living creatures and didn't seem to feel no ways tired about it. And apparently is following them back home. So, yo, I got nothing. I found it to be a fascinating and interesting story. Let me go ahead and check some of these messages and see what y'all are saying. Reese wants to know if I'm from Philly. No, I say Johns because I spent a good amount of time with folks from Philly, and that's just something that I picked up that I never dropped. Apparently, those giant Lord of the Rings spiders are called Shelob, which I don't know. If I saw that on a menu, I'd probably order it. So good to know. Latricia Ransom says, so Nigerians robbed a sick family member, but she looks down on us? Bet. Listen, oh my goodness, run, y'all. Yo, like, as I'm reading that part, I'm like, so y'all just stepped aside to let the flying carpet glide past you? First of all, you ain't no broom. You ain't no broom, no hot poker, a vacuum. Something like me and that carpet would have had, we would have come to an understanding. Either I'm gone or I am showing you, carpet, that I am dominating you somehow. I don't know how one dominates a magic carpet, but trust I would find a way. Melanin says she's adventurous. I like her. Adventurous is a word to describe that behavior. Other words are stupid, but Angela wants to know, was the carpet cleaning house? I feel like it. I feel like the carpet was cleaning house, but I don't understand the snake. I don't feel like that part was housekeeping. I feel like at a certain point is murder. Um yeah. Judy Lee's okay with that. As long as it only kills the vermin, she's good. I don't know. I don't know. Kitty Foxy is excited about the damn killer carpet story. Says that's her kind of story. Well, I'm glad. Um, Kelly says I was out of the house with the spider, so yeah, the carpet can have a whole house. Listen, that's true. If you wasn't there for the spiders, you most definitely not trying to be there for the whole. Yeah, I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad at you. It sounds like y'all are. It sounds like y'all are big fans. I can't tell if you're fans of the carpet story or just the carpet as the character. Me personally, I would have loved to spend a little bit more time in the realm of the junk man and finding out who he is and what other kind of stuff he sold. And I was early on. I was intrigued by the cousin Chinye. I wanted to find out more about her. She seemed to have an understanding of this man. Um, and a prior knowledge. I kind of wanted to see what that was about. Um, it I don't know. I think to set us up in that one city, in that market, to then take us away and move us across, 8 hours later and plop us down in another setting, and then we have to kind of get the backstory and the situation of that setting, and to have almost none of that really be related to the crux of the story, which is about this carpet. I'm not saying that it wasn't good or well written. It was just like I got all of these other pieces of information that I didn't get to do anything with. So I'm like, okay, and a bunch of relatives came out, a bunch of slobbery kisses and stuff, and also the cousin from back in the way drives a Mercedes, a blue Mercedes. So they doing well. Um, Also, are we ordering new furniture or not? And like there were just a lot of little pieces that I wanted more of. I wanted to understand a little bit better. Um, if you're gonna give it to me, give it to me. If you're only gonna give me a taste of it, I mean, don't that's like when somebody cuts you like a little sliver of cake. It's like just enough cake to make you mad. It's like I want a little sliver. I want to, I trade in slabs personally, but at least give me a slice. Don't give me a sliver. And that's what I felt like. I felt like we got a lot of little slivers of things that did not pay off. And then the section that has the big, rich, robust payoff, we're lacking a lot of backstory. Um, this might just be my personal gripe. Like I still dug the story, right? Like let me be clear. Still dug the story a lot. Just felt like the balance, right? Like the ratio of the stuff I really wanted to know about versus the stuff that was just sort of filler felt off to me. Um, so let's see. Um, Erica wants to know where she can get that carpet because she's talking about, okay, she's talking about murder on an open channel, so we're just gonna go away from that. Um, Daniel, of course, has already figured out a name for the business because that's how Daniel rolls. Latricia says that she would have liked to have seen more interaction with the carpet. I'm inclined to agree, like more interaction and, of course, more of the history of the carpet. Um, Melanin says that she would have liked to know more of that family dynamic as well. Like, why are they acting as if this man is already dead? Not even that, yo. Like, even if he was already dead, why are we stealing from family, period? Because he has two children. So even if he was already gone, you're going to take stuff out of his. It's not yours. Even if he had died already, it's not yours. Like, that shit was mad tacky. I took some real issue with that family. And not for nothing, I would have found the story 10 times more satisfying if up underneath that carpet they found one of the family members who had tried to steal the carpet. I would have found that much more satisfying. Also, I felt like the auntie that first morning when she seemed relieved to see them there and she was like, did you sleep okay? I was like, does she know something? What's up? What do we need to check on auntie? We need to go look at it. Matter of fact, auntie came by twice afterwards. We ain't seen uncle yet. What happened to uncle? He gone? What happened to uncle? I'm worried about him now. Daniel asked an interesting question. Was the carpet a dead relative? I don't think so. But it's an interesting possibility. Kelly says that this would have been an amazing intro to a series of stories that explores the wares from the shop owner. I would probably read a book about that, about like all the little mystic things that got sold. And yeah. Judy Lee said that Unc is under that carpet, and probably Unc is probably inside the snake, which is under the carpet. So he got it twice. He got it bad twice. Daniel says that this story really put the magic in magical realism. Definitely. Magical realism is one of my favorite genres here on the show. So Daniel, if you dig that, you should swing through. You should swing through more often. Make sure that you go over on YouTube and subscribe and follow that channel. And there on Facebook, go ahead and like and subscribe to the page. For real. Listen, we've still got a little bit of time left. We've got just about 15 minutes left. Usually I let the show rock until about 11:15. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put on the hold screen, and then I'm going to pick something up, and I'm going to be back in just a few. All right, y'all, I'm back. Now, those of you who have rocked with Storytime for a while, y'all know what it is. You know what I like to do. When we've got a little bit of extra time left, and and it's been a minute since we visited our friend Jesse B. Semple of Harlem, well, originally of down south somewhere where he was frequently Jim Crowed, but now of Harlem where he is a resident and certainly a troublemaker. So we are going to read, if with your indulgence, I'm going to read for y'all a simple story. And let's see, I like to pick up from the last place where we left off. So there have been some good ones too. And I think the last one we read was No Alternative. Yeah. And then we read Springtime last time. The last one we read, some of y'all might remember, all Simple wanted to do was fish and dream and dream and fish. So we're going to pick up with the latest one, which is Last Whipping. When I went by his house one Sunday morning to pick up my Kodak that he had borrowed, Simple was standing in the middle of the floor with his shirt tail imitating a minister winding up his Sunday morning sermon, gestures and all. He intoned, "Well, I looked and I saw the great beast, and the great beast had his jaws open, ready to clamp down on my mortal soul. But I know that if it was to clamp, my soul would escape and go to glory. Amen. So I was not afraid. My body was afraid, but my soul was not afraid. My soul said, whatever you may do to my behind, beast, you cannot harm my soul. Amen. No Christians, that beast cannot tear your immortal soul. The devil in the form of a crocodile, the form of an alligator with a leather hide that slippeth and slideth through the bayou swamp. That alligator cannot tear your soul. You really give a good imitation of a preacher, I said. But come on, go get dressed and let's go, since you left my Kodak at Joyce's. I didn't stop by here to hear you preach. I am saying that to say this, said Simple, because that is the place in the sermon where my old Aunt Lucy jumped up and shouting and leapt clean across the pulpit rail and started preaching herself right along with the minister. She hollered, "No, hallelujah, no, it cannot tear your soul. Sometimes the devil come in human form," yelled Aunt Lucy. "Sometimes it bees born right into your own family. Sometimes the devil bees your own flesh and kin, and he try your soul, but your soul he cannot tear. Sometimes you be forced to tear his hide before he tears your soul." Amen. Now, Aunt Lucy was talking about me that morning when she said the devil. That's what I started to tell you. Talking about you? Why? I asked. Because I have been up to some devilment, and she had seen what I had done, and she was going to whoop me come Monday. Aunt Lucy was so Christian, she did not believe in whipping nobody on a Sunday. What had you done? Oh, I had just taken one of her best laying hens and given it to a girl that didn't even belong to our church to roast for her Sunday school picnic, because this old girl said she was aiming to picnic me, except she ain't had nothing good to eat to put in her basket. I was trying to jive this old gal. You know, I was young, so I just took one of Aunt Lucy's hens and give her. Why didn't you pick out a pullet that wasn't lame? That hen was the biggest, fattest chicken in the pen, and I wanted that girl to have plenty to pull out of her basket at that picnic so folks would make a big grit admiration over her and me. How did your Aunt Lucy find out about the hen? Man, you know women folk can't keep no secret. That girl told another girl, told another girl, told her cousin, that cousin told her mama told Aunt Lucy, and Aunt Lucy woke me up on Sunday morning with a switch in her hand. Weren't you too old to be whipped by then? Course I was too old to whip. 16 going on 17, big as an ox. But Aunt Lucy did not figure I was grown yet, and she took her duty hard, because she said she had the last thing my mother told her when she died was to raise me right. And what did you do when you saw the switch? Oh, I got all mannish, man. I said, "Aunt Lucy, you ain't gonna whip me no more. I's a man, and you ain't gonna whip me." Aunt Lucy say, "Yes, I is too, Jess. I will whip you until you get grown enough to know how to act like a man, not just look like one. You know you had no business snatching my hen right off her nest and giving it to that low-life hussy, which had no better sense than to take it, knowing you ain't got nowhere to get no hen except out of my hen house. Were this not Sunday, I would whale you in an inch of your life before you could get out that bed." Aunt Lucy was angry, I commented. She was, said Simple. And big as I was scared. But I was meaning not to let her whip me, even if I had to snatch that sapling out of her hand. So what happened on Monday morning? Aunt Lucy waited till I got up, dressed, and washed my face. Then she called me, "Jess." I knowed it was whipping time. Just when I was aiming to snatch that switch out of her hand, I see that Aunt Lucy was crying when she told me to come here. I say, "Aunt Lucy, why are you crying for?" She said, "I'm crying cause here you is a man and don't know how to act right yet. And I done did my best to raise you so you would grow up good. I done wore out so many switches on your back till you tries my soul. But it ain't my soul I'm crying over, son. It's yourn. Jess, I want you to marry and carry yourself right and associate with people that's decent and be a good boy. You understand me? I was getting too old to be using my strength like this. Yeah," she hollered. "Bend over and let me whip you one more time." Did she whip you? She whipped me, cause I bent. When I seen her crying, I would have let her kill me before I raised my hand. When she got through, I said, "Aunt Lucy, you ain't gonna have to whip me no more. I ain't gonna give you no cause. I don't mind to be beat, but I do not never want to see you cry no more. So I'm going to do my best right now from now on, not try your soul. And I'm sorry about that hen. And you know, man, from that day to this, I have tried to behave myself. Aunt Lucy is gone to glory this morning, but if she looking down, she knows that's true. That was my last whipping. But it wasn't the whipping that taught me what I needed to know. It was cause she cried and cried. When people's care for you and cry for you, they can straighten out your soul. Ain't that right, boy? Yeah, I said, that's right. And thus endeth the story. All right. That brings us a lot closer to time, and I'm going to go ahead and call it. Want to make sure that we take care of a little bit of housekeeping. First things first, I Papa. Please, 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 if you haven't already, make sure that you like, subscribe, and follow our pages and share our pages and share your experience and bring a friend. So the next time it's time for you to come through, it ain't going to hurt nobody if you tag a friend and say, hey, friendo, come and join me over here and check this thing out. Or you could share the stream live on your page. Make sure that you do that. The more that we get people involved and we are able to grow this platform, the better off we're going to be, and the more I'm going to be able to do for you guys. Like this is my mission. This is what I do, and I want to continue bringing you all excellent stories and creating this environment week after week, twice a week, for your relaxation and enjoyment. All right, because there's not a whole lot of places that are exclusively featuring Black literature, but that's what we do here, and we're going to keep doing it as long as y'all make space for it. I will be there. But you can find us on all these social media platforms. On Facebook, it's Storytime with Julian. On Twitter and Instagram, it's at Storytime Julian. We don't do Clubhouse no more, so don't even worry about that. But you can find us on YouTube, youtube.com/, Storytime with Julian. And we're even on Twitch. Now, if you want to hear what I have to say, you can find me on Twitter too. That's at Magnet for Awesome. Now, if you want to support this show, and I really hope that you do, in addition to bringing your friends through, in addition to making an announcement or making a post about it, we can always use a little bit of financial support. It doesn't matter if it's $1. Every little bit helps. Every drop goes into this show. It costs us about $36 a month to stream. The books are obviously not free. So everything that we do, everything that we collect, we use to benefit and to grow this show. So if you want to make a contribution, I'm talk good. If you want to make a contribution, you can do that through Cash App, and that's just $Storytime, $Storytime Julian. You can see it scrolling there at the bottom of your screen. Also, what else? Oh, of course, goodness, cannot let it be forgotten. We are still collecting donations for the Storytime with Julian book drive, and we are thrilled that we are now up to 140 kids. So we have closed the registration until we know that we've got enough donations to cover every child and for every child to get a book in their hands. But we're super, super excited. If you want to donate, that donation goes directly to our partners over at Harriet's Bookstore. You can find them on Cash App at $Harriet's Bookshop or Venmo at Harriet's Bookshop. So please help us to continue the work that we're doing with the Storytime with Julian book drive. We're super, super excited about that. What else did I want to make sure that we let you know? We don't have a link for, oh, here we are. Yeah, we do. If you enjoyed this book, Kabu Kabu, you can find it at Harriet's Bookshop. For those of you who are on Facebook, you can go ahead and click on that link. You can find this here in the comments, streaming there for you. Really, really interesting book. I gotta say, I really enjoyed tonight's stories. We're going to bring something out new on Thursday. And I just want to remind you guys, this is the month of our anniversary. The 22nd is like, nope, sorry, 24th is our official anniversary date, but we're going to do our anniversary shows on the 23rd and the 25th. And I'm really, really excited about one of the surprises that we have lined up. So please stick around. We will have done 1 year. We'll be at this. We'll be at our first anniversary. Thank you so much for everybody who came through. Thank you for everybody who shared. I can't tell you how much that means. Angel Monique says, thank you for sharing Nnedi with us this evening, Julian. The stories were excellent tonight. I really appreciate that. And Judy Lee says, thank you for reading to us, Julian. Thank you so much, Judy Lee. And to everyone who came through, I appreciate you. This has been the Tuesday episode number 80. What are we? 84, episode 84 of Storytime with Julian, and it has been an absolute pleasure to share this time with you. Gonna go ahead and bring out the closing credits. Stick around for those, and we'll see you on Thursday. Peace.